Hi, and welcome to another video of live lessons in Bon Jovi songs, which are currently the companions to my yoga videos. So the live lessons in Bon Jovi songs actually a series that started a couple of years ago. But in 2023, I started making yoga videos, and I think I made it in September 2023. And I immediately was like, okay, I can make a yoga video and I can make a little talk about yoga, but it has to have a companion with, a life lesson in Bon Jovi song. So here we are. It's been half a year since I filmed the last time. So, but I'm back now, and I have it. I know now what I'm doing. I know now how much time it costs, at least for me, to make videos for this channel and also for my Dutch yoga channel as well. So yeah, I got it now. I got it. I'm on it. So I hope to see you every week again. Um, the um, the 6 months that I didn't film, I made a very important decision, which is I was originally going to do the outtakes. So those are extra songs for every CD or every album. I was going to do the extra songs as well, the outtakes, and I actually have a playlist of covers and outtakes from their earliest albums. I will put it in here below, so like from the 20th century. I will put it in here below, but I'm not going to touch that. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to just go through the albums, not just 20th century, but after these days, also like, into Crush and all the other albums. So, but I'm going to stick with just the album songs, so not the outtakes, because I could just see myself strand there, in particular with the New Jersey album, which had enough songs on it, and therefore also has, an equal amount of outtakes, that there are actually songs on the album, even more. So I could just see how that would kind of like, yeah, create confusion for me, but also for you. If I just keep making these videos, live lessons in Bon Jovi songs, and video after video after video, it's a title that doesn't ring a bell. I was like, with the New Jersey album, like 10 songs that don't immediately ring a bell. And I'm like, that's not a good idea. So I'm just going to go through all the albums. And then if, I want to continue this, then I'm going to do start again at the earliest songs, 1985. I think for this album that we have here, the 1985 album, there is one outtake song. So yes, then I'm just going to start again with the outtake song. Start again in 1985 and then move all the way up. So that's the recipe for this series. So that's a decision that I made. I'm not going to do the outtakes. I'm just going to stick with the album songs for this streak. So we're at the Fahrenheit album, 1985, and we're at the final song, Secret Dreams. And it's one of the 3 songs that were never played live. And I really have, my own vision on that. I also prepared this video in a blog post, so I'll link that here below. That's the full story of Secret Dreams that I'm not going to kind of like recap for you. So it was one of the 3 songs from the Fahrenheit album that was never played live. And at that time, that was like really weird because it's only the 2nd album. So just imagine you have that first album, you have them play, and which only had 9 songs, by the way. And so you have them playing that live, and you finally have your 2nd album. Like every band would, jump at the opportunity to play every song that's on it live, because, you're just craving for, new and exciting things to share with your audience. So the fact that they didn't, that there are actually 3 out of 10 songs that they didn't play live, is really telling about how dissatisfied they were with the album, and in particular with the way it came together. So they had like, very little time, songs that they didn't have full control over, things like that. So it was it's known as the Forgotten Bon Jovi album. So there were three songs that were not played live, and these were the 10th song that we're doing now, which is Secret Dreams. The previous video that I made, To the Fire, or I Don't Want to Fall to the Fire, and The Price of Love. And these three songs have kind of like a common denominator. There are all these really broody, but not brutal, broody, dark and broody songs. Very emotional, and I actually think that is the reason why they're not played, or have never been played. They were like so raw, in your face to all the band members about what a difficult year 1985 was, and how they felt that they had not delivered their best work in this album, and that it was a rush job, and the second album didn't bring them world fame, which was what they had intended it would do. So the first album was like, okay, this is good, but we need a biggie. And then the second album came and it wasn't the biggie. So they had like their whole social lives on hold. They had relationships on hold. They had relationships falling apart. They didn't have any money. It was really hand over fist that they were, struggling to make it. And there were three songs that were not played, in my opinion, were just so raw that they were like too much to be played live. And if I look in the article that Anthony Kosminski wrote about 330 Bon Jovi songs ranked worst to best, that article actually got an update recently. I will see if I can get it for you. So that's what the latest album 2020 in there as well. But this is still the old article, or the not updated article. And if you read the description that he gives on these three songs that were not played live, it really, you can see how that kind of like supports my idea that they were just too intense. So about Secret Dreams, he writes, John Bon Jovi has never sounded as despairing as he does in Secret Dreams. About To the Fire, he writes, one of a kind song that works as a prayer to an unknown power. About Price of Love, he writes, a manic and unrelenting drum roll opens this spiritual sequel to Love Lies. So we have an unknown power, we have a spiritual sequel, we have prayers, we have John Bon Jovi sounding despairing, as he does in Secret Dreams. It kind of like conveys the emotion of 1985. And that also really ties into John's love life, because he was not with his future wife Dorothea in that year. So it was one of the years that they were not together. So they were together in high school, and then I don't know, when he was like 19 or 20 or something. And in 1985, that's the year where John turned 23, so it was still very young, obviously, but they were not together. And it was the year that he dated Diane Lane. Now, I don't know if you know who Diane Lane is, but she is hot. She's like such a I don't know, can you say just such a babe? But she was really fun fun, and lively and sexy and attractive. And she was a Hollywood actress. So they were dating that year. Now, imagine a Hollywood actress, living in under the pressure of Hollywood, where women are really not, they're not in positions of power. They're not in, actresses are not the ones who, get to choose the roles and get to make the rules. And there was this kind of like, I also think that Marilyn Monroe is like a really a good example of how stressful it is for an actress in Hollywood. How difficult a life you have. And yes, there's the parties, and yes, there's the drinking, and yes, there's the fun. But what is it then? What is it other than coping, or drinking your sorrows away? So you had Diane Lane, who was living in that world, and then you had John Bon Jovi, who was living in the East Coast, and he was in full charge of his life. And not only was he in full charge, he was supported by, practically by his whole state. He had been on stage with Bruce Springsteen in the Stone Pony when he was only 16. So he had his parents supporting him. So he was young at 23. Diane Lane was even younger, but it was in particular that's my take on this. It was that power imbalance where John Bon Jovi has, he is the king of his own life. He knows what he wants. He said it a million times. I only had a plan A, and that was to become a really big rock star. So you had these two together, and they had a photo shoot. There's one photo shoot that you can find in the article that I wrote to prepare this video. So I'll put the article in below, and you will find a link to the photo shoot there. And they look so happy. They look absolutely perfect and gorgeous. Of course, like, oh my God, it's like the most gorgeous couple of the whole 20th century, for sure. So they were, from what appears to be like really, really happy together, but then it broke apart. And there's a lot of stories about why it broke apart, but most sources agree that it was Diane Lane who either broke it up or more likely blew it up. So she behaved in a way where John Bon Jovi, practically had no other choice but to say, okay, that's it, I'm out of here. And so she kind of like broke his heart by proxy, like not doing it herself, but behaving in a way that broke his heart and made him leave. So that's kind of like the general idea of what happened in 1985. So then we come in 1986, and now we have the biggie. Now we have Bon Jovi releasing their third album, the successor to the Fahrenheit album, Slippery When Wet. And that brought, it was not just, bringing world fame. It was like at first it seemed like, okay, this is world fame, but then before the end of the year, before the end of 1986, it was already that you could see like, oh, this is something else. This is like mega stardom. How did they do it? They had 2 songs at that moment. They had released 2 songs from that album. The second song they released was Living on a Prayer. The first song they released from the Slippery When Wet album, which, pushed them to the heights where they had always wanted to be, was You Give Love a Bad Name. Now, I have no doubt in my mind that this was written in, the slipstream of the breakup with Diane Lane. So I think this is such a beautiful story. It's tragic, but it's also a beautiful story because Diane Lane gave John Bon Jovi what he had wanted all his life, what everybody around it wanted for him. She really gave him the inspiration to write that one song that really, shot them to fame, and they've never come down since. So it's like in art, you cannot be the actual person who is there all the time, the most influential person or the most important relationship, but she gave him the the part of his work that will always stay. She, in a way, she made him immortal, and that's like mind blown, right? So there was a lot of heartache during the recording of this album, the Fahrenheit album. They went through the toughest of times, all band members did. But for John Bon Jovi, the heartbreak paid out. Okay, that was it for today. So see you next time for life lessons in Bon Jovi songs. Bye.